Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this professional learning opportunity, Courtship Before Enrollment. I am Bailey Cornelius, Digital Project Coordinator at NCEA, and I will be facilitating this webinar today. A few housekeeping notes as people are joining. We will be recording this session today. If you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to use the chat window. We will monitor any questions that you have and try to answer them in the time allotted. At the end of the session, I will share a link to the online survey in the chat and instructions on how to receive a certificate of completion for the webinar. Today's presenter is Tracy Smith. Tracy is an AISAP certified admission and enrollment professional. She holds a master's in Christian education. She previously worked in independent schools where she directed advancement, marketing, and communications, and built a team to support the school's admission and retention goals as enrollment management director. As enrollment manager specialist at NSBECS, she offers professional development, best practice, and training for those who are navigating various admission roles in schools. She and her husband live in San Antonio, Texas, and have 2 grown daughters and a grandson. Before I turn it over to Tracy, let us begin in prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Father, thank you for all these men and women who have given their talents to educating our young people. Through the challenges they encounter each day, lead them to an ever deeper appreciation of the sacred duty to which you have called them. May they be people of integrity so that they can be witnesses as well as teachers. We pray that the schools they lead will become places where our young people can experience your love in their lives. Thank you for our Catholic schools. Help us to pray without ceasing, to work without wavering, and to give without grudging in order to ensure the future of Catholic education for all our children. We make this prayer through your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord and teacher. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And now I will hand it over to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Bailey. It is a pleasure to be a part of this webinar series and to partner with NCEA. FACS is a longtime partner of NCEA, and we love the work that we get to do with you. And today I am really excited to be able to be with you because people that have a role in admission, whether it's your full-time role or whether it's one of the many things that you need to do, I love what you do. This has been my career over the last 10 or so years in school. And today I'm bringing you a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and it's about courtship before enrollment. It's often something, it's a concept really that we kind of forget about when we are dealing with our everyday process of admission. And I want to kind of give you a pause, ask you to pause for a bit today and think about the parent journey. The parents who come to you eventually, you see them, you meet them, but they're on this journey. And oftentimes we get, because we're so busy and we don't have enough time in the day, we get very ingrained in our processes and the steps that we need to take. And sometimes we forget that there's this emotional journey going on with parents as they are contemplating a school change or a school for the first time for their student. And so what I want to do is walk you through a little bit of a story about what the parents are going through, not to insult your intelligence to know, obviously they have choices to make, but oftentimes we forget the very personal feeling side and emotional side of what a parent is going through. And I bet you today that after we go through some of these steps, you are going to be able, definitely by the end of the session, to identify 3 main pain points that the average parent, prospective parent, is looking to relieve when they consider your school. You'll be able to identify how your admissions process aligns or doesn't really align with the typical parent's journey. And then finally, you should be able to improve your admissions process by adapting new methods of courting parents along their journey to enrolling. So if you have had a dating experience in your life or courting experience, certainly if you've ever been married, then the analogy hopefully makes sense to you and is very key to this process. Oftentimes we think in admission in a school, again, we kind of think, well, we are the school, we're the best school in the area, the city, the neighborhood, wherever you are. And so parents, as soon as they find out about us, they should just be able to make a clear path, find out about us, apply and enroll. And we tend to want to make it be a very short and straight linear kind of process. And in reality, it's actually quite of a curvy up and down kind of a process for the parents as they're making a journey to decide upon the next school. And what I'm going to uncover today are 3 steps of this parent's journey. Nothing unique to me that I've created. These are actually the steps of any discovery or sales process that anyone would go through when they are discovering a product or a service that they're wanting to buy. In this case, your school is offering the service, the education, and actually the student is the product. It's how well we educate the student in the end. But they will go through 3 stages of this overall journey, and I'm going to further explain what those stages look like. But here's the point of this message today. During this up and down stage is where I'm saying we have an opportunity to have courtship, where we can court the parents until they get to the point where they're ready to engage with us. And then basically, in my analogy, want to get married. So if you think about the prospective marriage, if a man who was an eligible bachelor just stood on the corner and looked at all the women that were available and said, I am the man that you should marry, and here are my 3 top stats and reasons why I'm it, and he just stood out there and told everybody all the stats and put all the stats on social media and expected that's how he would find a partner, he would be woefully unsuccessful. And yet we often do that as a school. We tend to kind of want to get on the corner wherever we get to say our messages and spout out why we're the best and why people should choose us. And yet we forget that we really need to court the families. We need to get to know them. We need to find out what's going on inside of them. And we really need to discover, most importantly, would they be a good fit for us? And would we be a good fit for them? So just like this courtship, just because you're single doesn't mean you should marry everybody. All of our parents aren't, perfect for our schools. So this process of helping them get to the place where they might want to enter engagement with us, and then essentially a long-term commitment in our school, which would be enrollment, is the opportunity we're talking about today. So I'm going to further kind of drill down into these 3 key areas, and then we're going to get some real practical tools and information that I hope you'll find really valuable. The awareness stage. When the parent is in this stage, they have become, one way or another, super aware that they have a problem and some type of pain point. Something's going on in the life of their child, their family, or the school if they're in a current school that is causing pain, discomfort, unrest, something, and everybody's aware of it. So that's what's going on in this particular stage. The second stage is called the stage of consideration. And during this stage, it's a little different. They've moved from knowing they have a pain point to now they're becoming aware of what kind of solutions would address this particular pain point of mine. So it's a research type of a stage where they're considering all kinds of solutions. And then the third step is this decision stage. And it's not just a one thing. They are considering the solutions, but they become now aware, in our case, of the best school options that might meet those solutions that they're looking for. So the decision stage is definitely a stage because it's a process before they decide to jump to the school of choice. So as we get into the nuts and bolts of this today, I hope that you will find some nuggets in here that will help you take some steps forward to improve your process. Because I bet if you're like most schools, you don't have as much time to get things done. So we need to be very crafted about the message that we're delivering to parents. We need to be resourceful, use our time really well, but you probably have a goal to reach. And as we are in the middle of the admission season right now and in enrollment, as you've had your current families make selection, or make their choice, and now new people are being offered enrollment, you probably have a goal to reach. And many of us are having to stretch to meet that goal, and we're not there yet. So what can you do to get your funnel with more people in it? Well, we need to be really mindful that we need to be courting people. And here's a crazy thing, before you've even met them. So let's talk about this awareness stage. When a parent is aware they have a problem, it's all about their feelings. They are feeling a bunch of things. they start identifying what I'm going to say are their symptoms, the symptoms of the problem, right? And it's going to be things like they're saying to each other, well, what is this problem? The problem of, our child who doesn't want to go to school anymore, or they're acting a certain way, or they're behaving a certain way, or their grades are doing something different, or, whatever the thing is. They start trying to figure out what is the problem exactly. And ultimately, what they want to do is they want to alleviate the pain of the problem. We all want to solve problems. And even though as grown-up adults, we've learned that growth, difficult things help us grow, but innately we tend to just want to eliminate pain and discomfort in our lives. So they're trying to alleviate the pain of their problem. And if they have fears and pains going on, they inevitably will ask the question, are they valid? Like, is this a problem, or is this just a passing scenario that we really don't need to pay any attention to? Or is this something that keeps happening over and over again that is valid to consider? So this evokes a lot of feelings on behalf of the parents. And then they will usually go to the first finger pointing that will say, is the school, if they're in a current school, they may say, is your school the source of their problem if they're a current family? Always want to point the fingers elsewhere, but indeed there may be an individual or the school that is causing a problem for their student. But maybe with a little bit more thought, they might end up saying, is our child the source of the problem? Are they creating a problem on their own that might need to be solved? All of this, again, is highly driven by feelings going on. Some parents, we'll get to this last question, to think maybe we're the problem. Maybe it's us, it's our parenting style or lack thereof. Few will get to that particular question, but eventually they'll ask something like, well, we have this problem, we're in school, but should we just stay where we are? Is the school the issue? Or they might be saying, should we be looking for another school? All of this is going on in this awareness stage of the feelings over they have a problem, but it inevitably includes some of these kinds of questions. So I want to drill down even more. And I know this is going to sound like it's a counseling session, but you really do need to understand that empathy is keenly important in this process for you. And so knowing what parents are feeling, being able to relate to them in the place of their feeling, is going to make you be the one that they remember and connect with over someone else that's talking about facts and figures and not relating to them personally. So what is the parent feeling in this stage? Number one, they may be feeling very hurt because maybe their child they perceive has no friends. Maybe their child hasn't been accepted in some way or another, and the child is hurting. And so whatever the child is feeling as hurt, the parent feels it tenfold, right? So hurt feelings are something that a parent wants to alleviate. And when they come to you with hurt feelings, they need to really sense that you understand their hurt feelings. So validating those is important. Validating feelings, again, in my marriage analogy, if you've been married for longer than a week, you will know that learning to validate your spouse's feelings, or maybe those of your children and your family, are so important. Not judging them, but validating them and then helping them work through those. A parent can also feel quite protective of their child, especially if they feel like their child has been, in their terms, bullied in some way or another, needing some safe environment. They will be very motivated by this feeling of that they're not safe now and they need to be more safe, feel more safe. And so the parent will take on this feeling of being very protective, and that is a fear-based emotion as well. I know you've heard conversations when they call you why they're looking for something, because they're running from something that's happened at their current school. They also might tend to feel quite entitled. I found this pretty funny that I would talk to some parents and they felt like they were the expert about school, not because they had been, had an education degree, but just because they themselves had been in school once before. They might come to the table and feeling like they were very qualified to tell us as a school what we should or shouldn't be doing for their child. So sometimes when those things aren't happening, they feel very entitled because they may be paying for a private school education where they are currently, and they may feel like their child is especially gifted and deserves more, well, fill in the blank, deserves more attention, deserves more opportunity, more court time, whatever it is. But they will often have this feeling of entitlement because that's where they're coming from. And it's important to recognize that as well, because that needs to be addressed. They might also feel somewhat superior because they feel like they have a handle on what they think school should be, and maybe they perceive their current school as being very inflexible, or teachers that won't, again, fill in the blank, that won't go the extra mile for their child, or they won't understand their child's unique situations. And this has become a source of superiority on their part, thinking they know their child, the school doesn't, and that's become a point of tension. All of these are very feeling-based kinds of things. And desperation is also something that parents often feel when they're considering a school. It may be that their child is very unique, whether that is on the positive or maybe on the challenging sense of things, and the current school is just not supportive, and they come feeling so desperate that they want someone else to understand all the special things about their child, because they desperately need their child to be loved and seen and cared for, just like they do in the family. And so it comes across as this desperation that if that's not how they feel in their current situation, that's what they're looking for. This is a strong, strong motivator. And then probably the last one I'm going to mention, which underlines almost all of these, is just fear or being afraid of whatever's going on, or even being afraid that they have the school decision before them and they're so afraid that they're going to, I've heard parents say, mess up by making the wrong school choice, especially if it's the first school choice. If it's a parent considering pre-K or K, they feel like there's so many options. Should they go private? Should they go all the different, kinds of private schools as well? And just lots and lots of options. So parents are very driven in this stage by feelings. Okay, what's the point of drilling down on this? If you get so busy in your admissions process that you forget that there's a real person on the other side who has a lot of feelings wrapped up in this school decision, and they might be really messed up over all these things, if you stop and pause, you are going to do better for them and make a stronger connection, because you need to learn to figure out what the pain point is, or maybe there's more than one point that they are feeling at the moment. And it's not so much figuring out the facts of what the parent tell you, is how they're feeling about whatever their pain point is, because that's going to be your key to effectively court them through this process they're going to go through of identifying all of these things. So what I want you to do is take a moment and think about for a second, if you've been in admissions for at least during this admission season, you've had people come to you over the phone and in person, and they tend to tell you what it is that their pain point is. And I bet you that if you can think back over what all the parents have told you, there are probably maybe at least 3 that bubble up to the top. 3 kinds of things that say, yeah, most of your parents say this or this or this. And I'd love for you to, by means of just trying to take in some of this today and make a difference, grab a piece of paper or another screen you might have open. Would you jot down 3 key areas or pain points that you feel like your parents share with you often? And it'd be the ones that probably most likely came to your mind. It's important that you do that with me if you've taken the time to participate in this webinar, either live or later on demand or on recording, because the answers to this are going to help you with the rest of the time that we shared. So think for a minute, 1, 2, 3, what are the main pain points that you hear from parents, prospective parents at your school? And if we had a room full of people and everybody shared, there would probably be 3 that would end up bubbling up for everyone as 3 common reasons why parents have pain points about school. And since we're not all live in a room together, though, I'm going to give you the benefit of some of the answers that I hear often from other schools and some of my own experience. It may be something like, my child is overlooked and marginalized in our large public school. That's a common one that I heard. Other schools tell me, our school does not share our family values and is in opposition to our faith. as time goes on more and more. If they're in a public school setting, oftentimes the agendas and things that are happening there start really butting up against a family who comes from a faith background, or it may be butting up against their Catholic faith and what they believe. And this has become a pain point. Maybe they didn't think it was going to be, but it has. You may hear something like that often, or maybe something around the nature of my child has been bullied and is shutting down emotionally and academically. And the parent is feeling a lot of stress over this. Don't worry about the truth of whether any of these things have really happened or not. It's all about the parent's feelings. So the feeling is what you need to hone in on. So if you've jotted down one or two or hopefully three of your top pain points, then the rest of this is going to be pretty practical for you. So let's move on to how could you address their pain points. So these are ways, very, very practical ways that you can address them. But I'm going to say, even before you've met the parent, because again, if you've been in admission for a while, you know what most people are either running from or looking for. So with that knowledge and experience, why don't you go ahead and be assumptive and know these are some key things that most people are looking for. And why don't you craft ways ahead of time to address pain points, like maybe using your social media platform to tell stories that directly speak to those painful things that parents are experiencing. Craft a story that shows words that may talk about how wonderful friendships are on your campus, since so many people are looking for a way their child to connect, maybe because they're in big schools and maybe your school is smaller than the average big school in the area. A social media storytelling campaign can be really wonderful to address that kind of a pain point. You could create a little video, and y'all, you don't have to have, hire a marketing firm to do that. Videos right now can be done on your phone. The more organic, the better, but to demonstrate things that might speak to a parent about how like-minded your school might be with their faith, how your school is like-minded faith-based. Maybe you're doing a little video that shows a portion of something happening in one of your religion classes, if you have a class or a portion of the day that talks about your faith, maybe times of prayer or singing, something that happens like that, that would further demonstrate what faith looks like in your school. That would be a great way to connect with parents in that way. Even infographics, and this doesn't mean a bunch of words, but infographics that might highlight some students at your school that have had major accomplishments or awards, not to plaster that over everywhere, but think about the parent who feels like their student is special and is going to be a high accomplished academic person or athlete. If they can see that your school has a way to recognize those students and for those students to excel, that might speak to their need to say, I need to be somewhere where my child will be recognized and can accomplish all that God has put in them to accomplish. Infographics can tell a story well for that. You might want to highlight maybe a coach doing some individual training with a student, whether it was strength training or something else, to further show how there's an individual approach at your school. Or maybe it's the same thing, but it's academic. Maybe a teacher tutoring a student, because you have that before after school care tutoring. One thing to note that I'll mention, some of these things are just things that you think, well, don't all schools do this? Isn't this obvious in all schools? Don't all schools have teachers that provide counseling and tutoring and things like this? No, they just don't. And even if many schools do, they're not great at it. And so if these are things that your school is particularly good at, you need to be telling the story and helping people experience and be very aware of how these things can happen on your campus. Another way to address the pain points is through ebooks. You've probably in your lifetime downloaded a few of these. Some company somewhere, you're scrolling on your phone or on your computer, and they offer some tidbit of information that's helpful to you. And you think, yeah, that'd be great. In exchange, all you have to do is give them your name and your email. You get the download. Often maybe you get some more emails after that that you can opt out of if you want. But if there's something of interest that you'd like to have, an ebook is a great way to offer that. And you as a school, this is a tremendous way that you can offer parents a connection over their felt need. You could do something like this, an ebook that was called How to Decide If It's Time to Switch. Switch, meaning switch schools. I'm going to show you what that looks like on the next page. All these examples, though, of ways to address the pain points are pieces of content, whether it's print, video, information that you can use. And here's the goal. You need to become the school that understands the average parent's pain points and offers solutions to the pain points. So the parent needs to feel like you understand them and that you have solutions. That brings you way up on the list of, gosh, there's all these schools in my city, town, whatever. This school seems to get us. They understand, and they would feel like you understand because of the way that you're communicating, certainly in person, but before you've ever met them through things like this. Let me show you this switching school content that I saw a few years back, which was genius. It was originally on their social media campaign, and then it eventually landed in their website, but it would flash up as you were scrolling through, and it had this graphic. Thinking about switching schools this year or next? There was a little video that they could click, and I believe it's barely like a minute long, little video that was cleverly done, and it talked about the reasons why people would consider, hey, is it time to switch schools now or not, assuming that there were some pros and cons to doing that. And then the really cool thing that they offered eventually on their school website was the ability to download your switch ebook, which would be an opportunity to read more about, I wonder if it's time to switch. It communicated to parents that that is often a decision people are needing to make, and that maybe there are some pros and cons to think about. And it was in the private of their own home. They can just read it on a screen. This is what's called content marketing. And this is a wonderful approach to meeting people at their point of need. If someone's scrolling through and they see something like this during the time when they're wondering if their current school is still the right school for them, they're going through issues and they're just wondering, gosh, it seems like a big deal to have to switch schools. If this spoke about all of that, that'd be a great thing for them to read about because it might help them alleviate some of their pain. Using content marketing is a wonderful, wonderful thing for your school to learn to embrace. The last thing I'm going to mention about how you can address a pain point is to offer tip sheets. Now, that last one was a video to watch, and then it was an ebook. But what about a tip sheet? I'm going to show you one that's called How to Prepare Your Child for Pre-K. And it was for all those parents out there who were stressed out because they're sending a child to school for the first time and they've heard that there are evaluations or benchmarks they have to meet, and they're nervous because they want to make sure that their 4-year-old is ready for pre-K. How many of you have heard, nervous parents asking you those questions? So what if you provided a tip sheet that any parent could use that would be helpful for them to say, hey, is your child going to be ready for the average things that a child needs to be ready for in pre-K or kinder? Here I'm showing you an example of at my last school. This was something that parents asked about a lot. We had a normal black and white piece of paper that we would give them to help them know if their child was ready for pre-K or kinder. But a marketing firm gave us the idea, why don't you turn this into a tip sheet that's kind of like the parent checklist, and why don't you market that and make this available? This is called content marketing for people to download if they want. And then they've got a resource that's available. And it also helps position you as someone who is helping parents in their time of need, helping those young families know how to get their pre-K child ready. So in exchange for this little tip sheet, we got their name and email, which allowed them to be a part of our big funnel. So it helped us with more people who might potentially be prospects for us. It costs us a little bit of time to develop this resource and turn it from a black and white Word document into a slick, a digital, really slick with a front and back. After that, once it was created, it didn't cost us anything to make this available on our website or to run it through a social media campaign. That might have costed us a little if we did an ad, but it was a tremendous resource, one of our most downloaded resources on our website. HubSpot is the company that coined the term content marketing. They did a report back in 2022, and the report was from businesses who offered products and solutions, products and services to consumers. Now, that is us because we do offer a service. And the stat that they came up with was 70% of businesses are actively using content marketing. 70% of them said that they were. And so that really begs the question for us as a school, because we don't think of ourselves as a business. Are we following the lead of the successful businesses out there who are learning how to get more customers, and they're using content marketing? So we really should too. So I'm going to talk more about that. But as we're drawing near to a close here in this first part of this little funnel, at the funnel of the journey, effective courtship in the awareness stage of this process, it needs to be intentional and it needs to be happening before you ever even meet the family, before they even reach out to meet you, meaning you need to be actively communicating with families through all these things that I just mentioned, so that you are catching them at their moment of painful need and it's resonating with them, and that you're offering a recognition that there's the need and you're offering some solutions that might be helpful to them. That is the key to this awareness stage. So in summary, and I think you should be able to download my slides once we're done. We'll make those available to you, so you'll have this as a resource. But these would be those key areas that you might want to consider now, that if you've not considered content marketing, or if you've been a little bit negligent in the area of connecting with a family during this awareness stage, these would be the things to consider. Do you use social media messaging at all? And if so, do you put any videos on your social media? They tell stories very strongly. Maybe you need to add some videos to the regular emails that you're sending out, all those different ways. Your storytelling and your messages could also be told not just from you, potentially the voice of admission, if you're the one that sends these things out all the time, but consider that teachers or your administrators or even other students have stories that they could tell that would be very powerful for a parent to hear and relate to. And then, of course, website content, things that might be on your website, or ebooks or things like that with relevant content. So these are ways that, even though you might not have thought about it, you could be courting parents when they're out there already feeling trouble and they have some pain points and needs. And this would be a way for you to connect with them without you even knowing who they are, and they find you because you've made a connection with them. So once they have kind of moved through this, I'm aware I have a problem, then they're going to start figuring out, wanting to know what their solutions are. So we call it the consideration stage. And here they are searching for options to solve their painful problems. So we're looking, it's like the role of the man in your life. My husband, if I tell him anything's wrong, he doesn't really necessarily want to listen to it. He thinks that his whole goal is to solve the problem, right? So he goes right to, here's what you need to be doing. And I just want him to listen to me first, right? All you ladies out there, you know what I'm talking about. So we too, as courting, in our relationship of courting these parents, they're looking for solutions. So once they get to the point where we've acknowledged that, though, they start researching to understand things like this. They want to understand approaches to viewing the problem they have, whatever the problem is with their child. And they're going to go to the experts out there, which are their friends, maybe a counselor, maybe a teacher, and their pastor, relatives, just the people in their lives. They're going to start talking to them and saying, Emily's been having this hard time at school. It just seems like nobody, she doesn't get invited to this or that, whatever. And they're going to start talking and polling all their little circle of influences, because they're looking for approaches to viewing their problem. And then as they've considered that, they're going to look for methods to solve the problem. And that might involve something like, well, what can we do about this? Maybe we need to enter into some counseling. And maybe my child needs some tutoring. The reason why she's academically struggling is because she needs better study skills and she needs some tutoring in order to help her do that. Those would be short-term solutions, maybe. Maybe there needs some coaching involved or academic guidance, but they're looking for methods that would be available, potentially that they didn't know about before, to solve the problem. So they're very open to, well, what are the options out there? And then a strategy to accomplish resolving the problem. So what strategy should I take once I'm becoming more aware of these solutions? What are the practical steps? Who should I call? What should I do? Who should I engage? Who should I communicate with? Maybe they've learned through this discovery process, because their child is struggling, that it would be very appropriate for them to go to their teacher and share some things, and then timeframes, just when should all these things happen. These could, on a short-term basis, solve the problem, and that may solve the whole problem, but it also may be things that they need to do right now to address the situation, but long-term, there may be something bigger that they need to do if it's relating to the school. So as they are searching for things, here's the kinds of questions, and again, I'm drilling down for you. What are the questions that they're asking, which means you need to be prepared to answer those questions. What are they asking during this stage? Is my situation unique, or is this normal? Sometimes they find out, well, all 8-year-olds act this way. All 16-year-olds have a problem with their identity and so forth. So they're asking those kinds of questions. They might also come to the point where they're saying, well, do other schools have different approaches or sensitivities to this problem my child has or this scenario? As their mind has been open to what all their friends and family and relatives are saying, they might be wondering, well, do other schools do it differently? This is all I've ever known. I'm at a public school. I grew up with a public school. My child's in a public school. Are there other ways of approaching this? They might be asking, could the problem be solved with just additional school support where they are? Does their child just need additional support? They might also be saying, I've been hearing from other places, are there specialized teachers that are trained to help with this very issue my child is facing? Maybe they're completely unaware, and that might help them recognize that they just need to ask. And in their own school, there are resources that are untapped there. They might be asking, are there different methods available at my current school or another school for teaching my child or coaching my child, whether it is a learning style approach, whether it is an overall style of more structure-based learning or more free-form learning, whether it's collaborative learning, all kinds of educational opportunities, right? So a parent starts considering those things. They might also want to know, are there certain assessments or programs that would help evaluate their child? Again, all for the desire to try to figure out what's the solution to the problem. As they become aware, because they're asking all the experts in their field of influence, they start becoming aware of different possible solutions. So maybe having their child evaluated for something might be what needs to happen. They will ask questions like, would my child thrive if they were in a different environment? Maybe they start honing in on the environment is what is key to their child's maybe success or failure at the moment. And then maybe they would ask, would their child thrive in a different academic approach as they've come to understand, oh gosh, there are different ways that people educate, and maybe maybe my child is more suited for a different kind of educational experience than what we have available. And then maybe lastly, they might look to themselves to say, are there steps that I maybe need to take as a parent to support my child better? Again, we tend to look at everybody else, but maybe it's something that they need to learn to do. But in this part of the process where they're looking for solutions, these are the kinds of questions that they're asking, either because others have asked them to think about it, or just by nature of asking all the questions, this is what's on their mind. So here's the question for you. Are you effectively courting while parents are considering solutions? They've got all this going on in their mind, but we need to continue to court them by saying, I understand where you are. I know you have a lot of feelings, and I have maybe some solutions that you might want to consider. Here's the key for you in the school. During this consideration stage of the parent's journey, make sure that you're courting them and not an opposite, like moving into full court press, meaning not pushing them to say, well, you are the solution. Your school is the answer. If we too quickly, in my dating analogy, say, great, you're pretty, you're living and breathing, marry me. For the man that does that to a young woman, he's going to turn her off because she says, you don't even know me yet. You haven't even met my parents. For the parent who's looking at the school and looking for solutions and things, for us to quickly jump to our favorite thing to do is just to say, apply now, apply now, apply now. They may not be ready to that. That may seem premature because they may say, you don't know me well enough and I'm not ready to get that serious with you. So to be really aware that in the consideration stage, you still need to be courting them and not jumping too quickly to ask them to make a decision they're not ready to make. Okay, so what are some solutions that you can offer? You've got lots of solutions. Here's one that you might not have thought about. What about offering options for webinars, similar to the one that we're doing today, whether it was live or something that you could watch on demand? What about parenting topics? Parents are always wanting some help for all kinds of things. What about doing one on a topic that was when your child feels left out? And you might address when they feel left out when they're in elementary school versus what it's like when their child feels left out in the middle school years. You could do and it doesn't have to be long, but you could do all kinds of topics like that that would really appeal to how many parents talk about their child doesn't have friends and feels left out. Maybe you could provide some really good tips about that that either normalizes the experience for them and lets them know there's nothing wrong. This is just what all children go through, but also might give them some good parenting tips. I promise you've got good teachers in your school and or good counselors or someone there that could speak to something like this and put together some type of a short communication piece for your parents that would meet them at their heart level. Maybe it would be a webinar on effective parenting or teacher conferences, how to do something like that. Or one of my personal favorites for parents of middle schoolers, a webinar that says, let them fail, the art of stepping back, learning how as a parent, us rescuing our child is never the answer once they're, out of the toddler stage. They will learn by failing, and they will learn how to put the pieces back together and have resolve to pick back up and go. But if we're rescuing them all the time, they'll never learn that skill. These would be really, really felt webinars that would meet strong felt needs of probably a lot of your parents. One of these might be something you would consider. What about ebooks? Lots of things that you could develop and write about. An ebook doesn't have to be like, 100 pages in a book. If it's more than one page, I think it can be considered a book or an ebook online. So you can call it whatever you want, but maybe something like guidelines for helping with homework. How the parent needs to understand that there's a certain level of help that's appropriate for an elementary student, but as we get into the middle grades, the parent should have minimal, if any, input into a student's homework, and by high school, so forth. Maybe a guideline on something like that would be helpful. Affording private school education for those that are considering but feel like they can't afford it. That was another good tip sheet that we did. Public or private school, which is best? You could put together a good sheet that talks about all things for a parent to consider, because not all parents and students need to be at your Catholic school. Maybe there's others that would approach, and private school isn't always the solution for all people. And then my personal favorite, because we helped produce it a few years back, but it was one called Anxious About the Transition to Middle School. Okay, who isn't anxious about middle school? Students and the parents. I'll show you that one in a second. But again, the goal with these solutions, the content marketing goal here, is to demonstrate to the parent that you and your school are trustworthy, that you're reliable, and that you're reputable. Not that you're just supposed to spout stats and figures out there, but for them to realize that you are a place where their child could be educated, but also you're very trustworthy, that you're reliable, and that you know what you're doing. They need to feel that about you at your school. So when you use content marketing to put out good information, they can potentially feel that way. So here's that example I was mentioning about the piece we did, and it was offered as a tip sheet or an ebook, and it was learn some tips and gain some insights from a middle school principal and a parent on how to successfully manage the transition, which would be from 5th grade to 6th grade if you have middle school at that time. We had so many people respond to this and download this particular ebook, and where it came out of. It was basically the written version of the talk that our very excellent middle school principal used to give to current parents, and she would help them transition between being a parent of a 5th grader to a parent of a 6th grader. And while she talked about your kids are going to need to learn to use combinations on their lockers, but she also told them things like, you're going to have to change the way you do some things. This year, do all the hugs and kisses in the car line while they're still in 5th grade. But next year, when they're in middle school, if you try to ask your child to hug you goodbye when they're leaving, you're going to, demoralize them, because we don't do hugs and kisses in the middle school car line anymore. Simple things like that, but these are things that a parent can relate to because it's meeting their personal felt need. So those are some really great options of content marketing. Other solutions that you could offer might be, again, different video presentations, a short video that might talk about maybe the benefits of Catholic education. Maybe you've got a great teacher that could do a short one on how to study, a discussion with a middle school history teacher, maybe for those that are needing to learn better study habits, and parents that are needing to learn what to do and not do. Or maybe one that was a day in the life of an elementary student in middle school. All of these are strong in helping make that connection with parents. And then potentially a website connection. As you have your website that's available, and all the young millennial parents are scouring online social media, your website, all the different things. Provide an opportunity for them maybe to connect with a real life person, maybe ask real life questions of a real life person. I've seen schools do some really creative things on their website, offering, if you'd like to talk to one of our current parents, here's how you can get connected up. These are all solutions that could help the parent who feels afraid, desperate, scared, all those things. Consider a temporary or immediate solution, and then maybe a long-term solution. Become the school that understands the parents' pain points and offers solutions for their consideration. And notice these solutions might just be situational. It may not be that your school is the solution, but if you are helping people, you will develop the reputation of being that school, and that reputation will serve you well in the future. So again, a practical step for you to pause for a moment. Think about the most common parent pain points. And what are, out of all those things I've just shared, maybe 3 new solutions that you could begin to offer when a parent is in this stage of the journey, when they're wanting some solutions. And so you could look back over the information when you get this after this webinar, and consider some of those things. But I would love for you to identify either one that you're already using that you need to keep using, but maybe 3 new solutions that you could begin to make available and offer, so that you are engaged in this solution time of parents are looking for a solution to their pain problem. Can you do anything to alleviate some of the pain they're feeling right now and be a good partner for them in the future? So if you're thinking about those first 3 pain points that you might have mentioned, these would be an example of some solutions that might match those pain points that I'm going to use for my example. Maybe you could provide a video with a teacher and a student describing just about how relationships grow on campus. Maybe how much the elementary teacher loves the elementary student, and the student mentions what she loves about Mrs. So-and-so, and the elementary teacher talks about the relationship she has in her small classroom of students who are all like-minded from wonderful families. A short video that would express that would really touch the felt need of the parent who wants their child to be connected. Maybe another choice would be doing an ebook on, is private Catholic education right for your family? And you're basically taking any of the material that you already have, probably that NCEA has already produced for you, about the benefits, and taking that and turning it into a thought process for the parent. And not just saying this is the only way, but if these things are important to you, maybe Catholic education is right for you. And just a way for the parents to walk through and think about something like that. It doesn't have to be something that you've created completely from scratch. Use ideas that you've already seen, but turn it into something that you can offer. Maybe lastly, having a parent ambassador program that might give you the ability to put a parent either over the computer or face-to-face with another parent who has a situation where they could relate to or talk through, could be a really strong point. Parent ambassador programs are strong things that you can do to help connect people and let parents feel like that they can be a part of this process in school. So those would be solutions that you could offer. As we're nearing the end of this, after the parent knows they're experiencing some kind of pain point, they're feeling it big and they're looking for a solution, they're considering all the things, they've polled everybody, now they're to the point where their goal is to become aware of, okay, I think I know what's going on. I think I know the kind of thing we need now. What are the best schools in my area, or where I'm moving to, or whatever, that would provide the right kind of solution to my child? So they're in the decision stage now. Here's what's going on. Now that they believe they know the solution, what school's going to be the best? Okay. They want to hear truth, not a sales pitch. For especially the young millennial parent, if you are pitching, it will turn them off. They don't want to hear about your school. They want to know that you care about their child, you understand their needs, and that you can gently show them how your school might be a perfect fit to their needs. So they want truth, not a sales pitch. Not saying you would be lying to them, but they're going to perceive you generally at the school as not the person that they're going to listen to the most. They trust their friends and other parents over what I'm just going to call school people, whatever that is. Now they'll get to know you and they'll get to see that you love your school and everything you're saying is true, but just initially they're inclined not to trust you as much. They want to know what everybody else thinks or says. They trust reviews and online rankings hugely. This was a surprise to me because I never trusted things like this about schools. I wanted to talk to people, real people that I knew. I cared about people that were like me, what they thought. This day in the age of people who grew up with online resources and massive amounts of data available right here on their phones, they are very comfortable pulling in all kinds of data like this. So reviews and online rankings are huge, which means you need to know where people are going to find out about schools, and you need to know what is mentioned about your school on sites like Great Schools or Niche, Private School Review, School Digger, ones like this. These are just a few of the most popular ones. And you need to make sure that, that the information you have there, sometimes you can have a profile there that you can have access to and add some things. Sometimes you have to pay for that, but otherwise you should be aware of what is there, because oftentimes feedback that has been left there is negative. And the only way to get rid of negative feedback is to help get more positive feedback poured in, so the negative feedback goes down on the list. So you should definitely be aware of where are they hearing about your school. Parents in this stage of the game want to experience your school for themselves. They've done all of their talking, their fact gathering. Now they want to experience, and really and truly, they kind of want to try before they buy, similar to going and test driving a car. So you want to make sure that you're giving them this opportunity, not of stats and details now, but experiences that will help them realize, this is a really, really good fit. While you're doing this, all these experiences, you have to know that the whole time this is going on, they definitely want to know that their child is seen as special, as valued, and definitely seen. So if you've got a child on a tour or an event, if you're not addressing and speaking to the child, you're missing the whole point of what's going on. Because often the child, like it or not, is the decision maker. The adults will lean to the child on how the child feels and how they're responding, no matter how little or big they are. So not missing the point that you need to pay attention to the child in all of this process. Okay, so how do you help parents experience the solution that could be your school to their pain point? Well, you can, I think I hit 2, there we go. Make sure that the reviews you have out there that you're aware of, especially your Google page, you do have some access to your Google page. You want to make sure that it's current and fresh. Some Google pages allow the reviews to be there and some don't. It's weird across the country, but be aware. And if you have access to if people are able to leave reviews, you'll want your parents to be leaving, your happy parents, ask them to go leave reviews so that those will be visible by other people who will read them. Other ways for parents to experience your school as the solution, offering obviously visits to campus, tours, so that they can experience things. Not a tour like when you go to a museum where you say, this is what this is, and this was this historical thing, and this is where this happens. They need to experience. So you're walking them through your school for the purpose of not showing them what the buildings look like, but to experience what it's like to be at school. Preview days are also a great way that many schools have started asking the parents and the students to come so that they can have a short preview of the real school day while school is going on. They can engage with other people, lots of ways to craft those so that they're not interruptive of the day, but the parent and the student get a better feel for the real school day. What is it like? Shadow days, many of you do that. That's definitely the answer to the try before you buy. I want my child to see what it's like to be at school, and come for a day, come for a half a day. I don't recommend a whole day, regardless of the age of the student. Some portion of the day is probably best. Open houses. are great ways also to allow parents to engage with your faculty or principals, maybe coaches, experiencing what the people are like. But how about things that are less planned events, but don't forget things like for a family that may be big on sports, invite them to one of your games. Come and sit with them and let them experience a basketball game or a soccer game. Invite them to a school concert, a play, a musical. Maybe you have parent forum meetings and invite them to come to something like that. Anything that makes them feel like you're one of us and just kind of slide in and see what it's like to be here. That will go far for the parent who needs to experience what it's like to be at your school. Maybe something as simple as having short moments, maybe 30, 45 minutes max, where they're available to come and have a little morning coffee with the principal or the head of school, or maybe it's the athletic director, someone where they get a chance to meet face to face. You limit it, it can't go on for 3 hours, but things like that can be very successful in feeling like the leaders of your school are very approachable and accessible to parents in the school. And then I have to definitely mention the process that they might need to apply if you've done really well and they're really ready to kind of engage with you and say, yeah, we think you might be a really great school. We'd like to apply to your school. That application process should be really easy. It should not be difficult. It shouldn't require them to have to give you loads and loads of records, just the things that you need to help make a decision on if this person and this family are a good mission fit for your school. And that application process definitely needs to be easy. And I'll say in this day and age, it needs to be a digital experience where they're not bogged down with paper and copying and having to write things out and track things. It should be a very easy digital experience that they could do while sitting at home on their phone and apply to your school if they think that you might be a really great solution for them. Be mindful also of the kinds of assessments and evaluations that you might provide for the students that while they may be required, it also communicates to the parent, your school is being careful. You care about the overall student. You might ask for recommendations, also things like that, because all in all, you would want their child to thrive as a student in your school. So if you have entrance exams or things like that, make sure you're communicating that in such a way to let the parent know that this is all part of the process and that will be helpful in knowing. And then in the end, if you're going to offer admission or the offer of enrollment to a student, it should be a celebratory experience. It should be something super duper fun that the parent, after all this, remember this long road that they've gone through and of all these things, this should be something that we all get to celebrate in the end. And that is also an experience that they should get to do. It would be like if you were courting and dating, going through the dating time and never having like getting married during COVID, where you didn't get to have a ceremony and you didn't really get to tell anybody about it. It was just on a piece of paper. That should not be what your offer of enrollment and that experience should be. It should be a celebration. It should let everyone know, and whatever your form is, and something that can be memorable as well, because they are special, and I'm super excited. So as I'm nearing the end here, there are probably some things that you've discovered over the years that are good events that you offer, either because you think that they're well attended or the parents themselves tell you this really helped us make a decision about our school. My challenge you today, as you consider where the parent is in their journey about trying to make the very best school choice, when you're having them come on campus, because they're definitely near that third part of the journey now, when they're coming on campus, you're not trying to say you're the only school for everyone. What you're trying to do is still relate to them personally. What events that you have to offer, whether they're super scheduled or they can happen a bit organically, what are the ones that best help parents make that connection, and the ones that really bring people to the final conclusion about applying and enrolling to your school? Whatever those are, I would say you need to hone in on the ones that give you the best yield and not worry about trying to be everything to everyone. You don't even need to get everybody a personal tour on your campus. If you're a larger school, that can wear you down. The parent needs to know you care. They need to know you have solutions. Remember, all of that can happen before you've ever met them. When you do get to meet them, what you're needing them to do is just experience what you've already discovered as their need. And if you know your school well, you should know well how to get them to share in that experience by an on-campus event. Here are some things that are suggestions that I've heard people say, that the shadow day experience, maybe ending with a bit of a parent debrief, is one of the best events that they have that help a parent make that final decision. Yeah, we'd love to commit to your school. Or a preview day where a parent and the student get to come into live classroom and interactions with the teachers. Or maybe a school tour that doesn't just include the admissions person, but maybe a student ambassador where they can hear personal stories. These can be very effective school experiences that demonstrate that you're a good solution for the parent. So in conclusion, in the end, as I've talked through lots of these options and things, there really are three keys to this idea of courtship before they make a decision to apply and you make a decision to offer enrollment for the school. And you really need to be mindful of those all the time so that you're not missing any of these points. Number one, what is the parent's main pain point? Your job in admission is not to be the tour guide. Your job is not to get all the application. Your job is to connect with the parent and help discover what's their need, help them, whether it's your school or some other school, help them solve their need and move them on so that you have a good reputation and you're seen in a good light. You have to know their main pain point. Number two, you need to give solutions to the pain point, not just address it, but solutions for how to alleviate the pain so they feel different. And then finally, be able to very effectively demonstrate how your school, by experiencing your school, is the best solution for this particular family's need. Not all families, but this particular family's need. And in conclusion, I have to say that that parent journey doesn't really end. Your job in admission doesn't end once you've offered enrollment, because eventually they have to come to the school and they have to feel good about the decision that they've made. And we want them to stay in the school until they can graduate, whatever that grade level is for you. So the idea of courting them, think about it in marriage. If you were marrying someone, and I'm just going to speak from the female perspective, if he wrote me love notes and sent me, flowers and cards and chocolates and those kinds of things all up until we were married, and then, after we were married, all those things stopped, I would have buyer's remorse. I'd say, what have I gotten myself into? So the experience that you give on the front end needs to be the same kind of excellent customer service experience on the back end. It may not be you personally, but the rest of the administrators in your school need to keep providing this connection with parents at a feeling level so that we continue to meet their felt needs. And so the parent journey to courtship and to this commitment really extends beyond their commitment, because they've got to eventually start school with you, and then you want them to stay happy and not end up breaking their engagement or breaking certainly their marriage and divorcing from you right too early. So it's so important that we're aware of all of those things. I wanted to let you know of some resources that were shared with me many years ago. One of my favorite books that I read as an admission professional that I recommend to everyone is a book by Donna Cutting. It's called The Celebrity Experience, and it is chock full of so many practical, really, like, where you can visualize the answers of how do you provide excellent red carpet customer service to people. And that's partly what we've been talking about. How can you really show that you care about these prospective parents and give them an experience that is a wow experience for them? That book is a great read, no matter what the industry. It's not about school, it's about any service that provides that kind of thing. A couple other key books about dealing with people, winning over their hearts and affection and their trust. But also something that I continue to do every single week is I follow thought leaders, people who are constantly putting out content marketing in ways that help me. And so a few places where you might want to consider having this steady stream of information coming into you to stay sharp on things. NCEA Talk on the website has a great place where they continue to put articles and resources for Catholic schools there. If you're not already connected there, every so often one will be specifically related to admissions. There are a couple of thought leaders that are good school marketers for private schools, Brendan Schneider and Rick Newberry, who do content blogs all the time where they're sharing great stats and metrics and things that would help you as a school. So I've provided a few of those other resources there just for ongoing professional development, because it's just so necessary. But in the end, this is my unique privilege as an enrollment management professional at FACS to help the schools who use our FACS products to be well prepared to do the job. And as if you happen to be a school that uses the FACS products, I'm available to you kind of at a concierge level of service to visit with you, usually virtually, and talk about your process and help share some of these ideas and then the tools that you may have in your tool belt to help you be more effective and more resourceful as an admissions professional. It's just more than touring and saying apply now and making offers. There is a whole connection that needs to happen. And for those of you who are thinking, that sounds so overwhelming, I don't have time. Yeah, I get it. That's why we all need to learn to continue to leverage resources and technology that can help us do more in less time without sacrificing a personal connection. So this is what I love to do day in and day out. And I've put my contact information up here for you if there's ever anything I could do to help you personally. But it's been my pleasure to share these ideas and suggestions for you, encouraging you to not forget that you're courting during this admissions process. And I hope you'll take a few of these ideas, put them into practice back at your school. And now I think I can turn it right back over to Bailey so we can conclude.
Yes, thank you very much, Tracy, and thank you for attending today's NCEA webinar. NCEA continuously strives to improve the quality of our services for our members based on feedback. We will use your input to inform future work and improve services. I'm going to drop a survey into the chat. It should take about 5 minutes to complete. If you are interested in a certificate of attendance, please include your email address and name at the end of the survey. Since your certificate will be sent via automated email, please check your spam if you do not see an email within a few minutes. The survey should also pop up as soon as I end the webinar. Again, thank you for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.